Welcome to our TV network, your ultimate destination for all things exciting and essential. From mouth-watering food to the latest in fashion, health, education, music, movies, and news, plus thrilling sports and breathtaking travel, our TV network brings it all to you. Tune in today and experience the best of every world, all in one place, rtv.network.
Hello and welcome to the Connect Caribe Report here on the Callaloo Alliance Media RTV network. I'm Carolyn Howe, happy to be with you. And today we're going to be looking at the theme Caribbean Economic Diversification Opportunities and Challenges. That's a mouthful. It's all coming up here on Connect Caribe Report with my co-host, Ambassador Dr. Andre Thomas, CEO and Chairman of Pleon Group, and John Clendenning of the IC Group, and our guest, Simone Williams-Arrington, partner with the Williams Global Law Firm. That's going to be joining us later in the segment in the spotlight. So coming up right now in Connect Caribe World is Dr. Andre Thomas, CEO of Pleon Group Incorporated. So tongue-tied this morning. It's the parent company of the Connect Caribe Ferry Service. And we also have a short feature highlighting the IDB's review of some key economies in the Caribbean, focusing on social and economic development. So stay with us. We're going to be right back after these messages.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. Stocks fell at the opening bell after the latest look at consumer inflation showed a bigger than expected jump for January. U.S. underlying inflation rose by the most since March, diminishing chances that the Fed will lower interest rates anytime soon. The core consumer price index rose 0.4%, with higher prices for prescription drugs, car insurance, and airfares contributing to the advance. The overall headline measure was up 0.5% from December, and that was the most since August of 2023. Isuzu is building a new $280 million plant in South Carolina. The company said it plans to have the site operational by 2027 and employ more than 700 workers at the factory by the following year. Isuzu plans to make 50,000 vehicles a year there by 2030. Japanese car makers are bracing for steep tariffs on components imported to the U.S. from Mexico and Canada. Gina Cervetti, Bloomberg.
This is our Caribbean, the world's first climate-smart zone, a collection of economies that thrive on renewable energy and technological innovations to confront the effects of climate change and create spaces for its people to be safe, productive, and happy. We are proud to be economies that are at one with our planet while taking advantage of the fourth industrial revolution. In Caribbean 2040, policies are anchored in a sound institutional framework that allows citizens to move freely, experience an improved rule of law, and give expression to their creativity and talents. In Jamaica, economic stability is the norm. Productivity has grown so much that the GDP per capita has increased by 250% since 2018. Innovation is the norm. Tech-savvy youth are everywhere, and the orange economy is world famous. In the Bahamas, climate change risks are better confronted through strong adaptation for the 700 plus islands in the archipelago. More than 40% of the nation's coastlines have been reinforced to prevent erosion, creating numerous specialized jobs focused on climate adaptation, infrastructure, and resilience. The unemployment rate is less than 2%. Educated national youth strive to be innovative entrepreneurs, valuing stronger family units. Because of this, crime is at an all-time low. In Barbados, innovative battery storage technologies have transformed the landscape. Public transportation is powered through solar energy. 80% of the island's energy is created from renewable sources, creating thousands of jobs while reducing energy spending. LED streetlights illuminate highways and communities at night, saving millions of dollars each year for the government, business, and consumers. In Guyana, as one of the hemisphere's leading oil and gas producers, Guyana is able to export 90% of its fuel production while utilizing safe and environmentally friendly methods. Guyana's energy and forest wealth has been carefully managed, ensuring smart investments on behalf of its citizens. Supported by a robust broadband infrastructure, citizens' interactions with the government are conducted online in a more effective, efficient, and transparent way. Wi-Fi services are free for all, and roaming charges no longer exist. In Suriname, government spending is highly effective and efficient, thanks to the introduction of the Economic Stabilization Program, birthed from its own people. Also, modern farming methods, to include water-resistant seeds, have increased food production yields, making Suriname a significant global food source. In Trinidad and Tobago, now one of the world's leading technology hubs, it's home to more than 300 private sector businesses that have prospered with the development and application of innovative technologies in energy, IT, and business services. A major regional export is advisory services based on music, cuisine, sports, and fashion, with creative icons demonstrating how to effectively extract revenue from intellectual property. The nation is still world famous for organic chocolate and specialized branded liqueurs.
Welcome to Connect Caribe World. And that's a very poignant video we've watched, really sharing a possible vision for these nations. Now, I define now vision as a clear mental portrait of a future that can be possessed. And vision is real when the ingredients of vision you possess today. Now, the vision espoused in these videos would certainly be a great future for the Caribbean. However, I must share with you that the ingredients are actually changing as we speak. Now, what do you mean? Now, those videos were created during an era where the leadership of the free world focused very much on climate smart technology and a climate smart thrust. That has now changed. The environment has changed. And with the changing environment, we now have new leadership of the free world in the President Donald Trump administration. And the focus of this administration is very different from the administration that existed when these videos were created. So the key things I want to point out here, the leadership of the Trump administration is focusing on the creation of an AI-driven economy. That's very significant, which would depend on significant storage of power. And to do that, they're going to leverage the oil and gas resources that are within the US. And the emphasis on climate smart technology will change. That's going to have an effect globally. It's also going to have an effect on the varying visions that we saw espoused in this video. But if you really look at what can happen, you look at a country like Guyana that has a great potential to become one of the leading oil and gas economies globally. And you can definitely see that trajectory continuing and it being able to build its agro economy, and it's been able to build its mining economy, and it's been able to build its fisheries economy. But then you see a nation like Barbados. A nation like Barbados has to tread a more careful line because it's not a natural resources economy. It now has to either shift to not just a tourist economy, but perhaps look to develop a knowledge economy. And so nations like Barbados that depend significantly on the tourist market would really have to think outside of the box because the climate change economy has not expanded during the advent of the Trump administration. It's my prediction and my assessment that the size of that economy has actually shrunk. And so, because the size of that economy has shrunk, the transactions that economy can generate have actually reduced. So there's going to have to be fresh, innovative thinking that includes the climate change economy, that includes the tourist economy, but also looks beyond that. So there has to be a third pillar to the economy. I know we do have manufacturing, but the cost of manufacturing is too high. Now, if you go to nations like Trinidad, it's an oil and gas economy. It's also a manufacturing economy. I believe that tremendous growth can occur within the manufacturing economy, and I believe that the type of service that Connect Caribe would bring to nations like Trinidad, connecting the Caribbean via a ferry service hub, moving cargo and people, would have significant impact on the GDP and would have significant impact on the development of the manufacturing sector. So those really are my thoughts. And then when you now look at the other nations, like Jamaica, I mean, Jamaica has tremendous potential in developing other aspects of its economy. Now, we all talk about the culture economy within the Caribbean. There's obviously room for greater growth there, but I believe in nations like Jamaica, there's tremendous growth. There can be tremendous growth in other areas like AI, like the knowledge economy. So, in my thinking, the climate change economy has shrunk, and there needs to be some fresh, innovative thinking to account for the shortfall.
Wonderful. Dr. Thomas, thank you so much for really helping us better appreciate the video we watched, which was really interesting, informative, and exciting, and then kind of level setting, letting us know your perspective as to what could and should take place. So we really appreciate that. So, viewers and listeners, that was Connect Caribe World with Ambassador Thomas. Coming up next will be Connect Caribe Report with John Clendenning. So he will be connecting the dots, and that will be after these messages.
With the Bloomberg Small Business Report, I'm Tracy Jonke, brought to you by Dell.com. Immigrants drive a large share of U.S. small business creation, a third of the launches in 2023, according to the census. The data also show Latinos starting businesses at twice the rate of the rest of the population. And now many in majority Latino communities are reporting a chilling effect on their businesses from the Trump administration's immigration crackdown. Sam Sanchez, a Chicago restaurateur, tells the Wall Street Journal that even people who are in the U.S. legally fear they'll be picked up and deported. The results include a pullback in spending at shops and restaurants in Latino neighborhoods. In South Los Angeles, a guitar shop owner tells the Journal he's endured day after day of almost no sales. If the spending pullback continues, the impacts could spread to the broader U.S. economy, as the Labor Department says Latinos account for 13% of consumer spending. And that's the Bloomberg Small Business Report.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Connecting the Dots, this segment of today's program. And joining me today is Mr. Anthony Weeks, my colleague here in St. Croix. The Caribbean's heavy reliance on industries like tourism, agriculture, and mining, which also makes it vulnerable to these global economic fluctuations that Ambassador Thomas had just spoken about. We have natural disasters, pandemics, and this dependency limits our long-term economic stability and growth. So what we're going to do today in the Connecting the Dots is look at the supply chain implications, I would say, in the single Caribbean economy. We need to think about the regional integration and efficiency that a unified Caribbean economy has the ability to streamline trade, reduce border friction, and increase the efficiency of these unified supply chains. With a common market, customs barriers would be lowered, allowing for smoother transition of goods and services between our island nations, and enhancing international trade when we've talked about earlier in the program with ferry boat and passenger services for logistics. And it looks at this infrastructure, our ports, roads, and airports across member countries would create a more reliable and cost-effective supply chain. So the public and private sector investments that we're looking for in these areas as we transition are crucial to connecting the smaller areas. And so when we look at today's theme of the Caribbean economic diversification, the opportunities and challenges, these are some of the things that we want to highlight today in Connecting the Dots. So we want to look at strengthening local manufacturing. As Ambassador Thomas pointed out, this manufacturing sector opportunity. We want to encourage that kind of growth in smaller industries in the different islands that together our standards, best practices can make this an economy of scale when we talk about the region. We have an opportunity in the technology for logistics, smart supply chains powered by technologies like the Internet of Things, and blockchain and artificial intelligence will significantly enhance the inventory tracking, reduce theft and fraud, improve efficiency, and the Caribbean countries with their small and medium-sized manufacturing organizations could integrate real-time data across the borders to ensure these smooth logistics. So regional growth, as we take it, and the opportunity for diversification as we change from tourism, can stimulate the demand for efficient supply chains and solutions. And as businesses in the Caribbean increasingly look for global markets, having seamless digital first supply chain infrastructure will be vital. So joining me in this section, we have Anthony Weeks, and who is the founder of SETI CASE, the single economic, St. Croix economic initiative, and the Caribbean's area single economy. And I'd like to ask Anthony, thank you, one, for joining us, and what kind of are challenges, what are some of the things that you've observed?
Thanks, John. I appreciate that. There are just incredible opportunities in the region, in the Caribbean and the rest of the Americas. Everything from addressing inefficiencies to the if you will, the system that's in place infrastructure-wise. Obviously, a big issue is credit, access to capital. There's a high degree of indebtedness by the government and the level of debt in the region, which presents a unique challenge for governments to access funds for capital projects. The other area, like you said, you talk about natural disaster. That's an annual occurrence in the region that we have to grapple with each and every year, and have to figure out building infrastructure that would be more resilient, if you will, to those types of natural disaster occurrences. You have issues as well as transportation issues. While it's beautiful that we have so many different islands that offer so many different things, the fact that they're disconnected from each other, which makes them fragment and create a little bit of friction and fractionness in the region. And so some of those things when we talk about, these are some of the unique challenges that affect us in terms of access to capital, the transportation, logistics, moving people and cargo throughout the region. Energy is a huge issue, right? The cost of energy in some cases where, countries like Guyana and Trinidad are an oil producing country, that's not the case for the rest of the Caribbean. And so those are some of the challenges that we have to grapple with. But the good news is this program, be it informational, providing education and understanding as to what we're dealing with, but we also providing solution in this new economic paradigm and how we transform the region into where we think and what we envision it to be. And so, interesting enough, while we talk about those challenges, the SETI CASE Connect Caribe partnership literally addresses the issue on both sides of the equation. In CARICOM, you have the CARICOM private sector organization in the Pillion Group and Connect Caribe. And then on the U.S. side, the U.S. Virgin Islands side, is the SETI CASE initiative, which speaks of the creation of the Caribbean America's single economy, speaking of the three pillars: Port St. Croix, transportation, logistics, and supply chain, working in partnership with IC Group Logistics. You have the CASE capital market formation and structure. It speaks to building a new financial center for connecting better the availability of capital for both government and private sector on both sides in CARICOM and in the U.S. as well. And the Virgin Islands and St. Croix and the role St. Croix plays will provide that mitigating factor in terms of how we bridge the two. We talk about, how do we avert some of these or mitigate some of these indebtedness by local government, municipality? Industrial revenue bonds. Industrial revenue bond, unlike muni bonds, which are backed by the full freight and credit of and taxation of that municipality. Revenue industrial bond speaks to the merit of that project. That business model that says if it's a feasible, viable economic business, that business pays for the revenues that is generated from that business, pay for the debt service in that situation. And then obviously we talk about the energy situation. While Guyana is one of the richest oil producing countries on the planet and the fastest growing economy in the world at 15%, respectively, throughout the world. Guyana and Trinidad, while they have these oil reservoir and deposit, refining capacity is a problem. St. Croix has one of the world's largest oil refineries in the world, in St. Croix. So we bring what we bring to the partnership with Guyana and other oil-producing countries in the Caribbean, like Trinidad. We bring the additional capacity, infrastructure to be able to refine the crude oil into a refined product into the U.S.
Great. Thanks, Anthony. And as we connect the dots here, I wanted to pick up on a couple of the points you made in financial technology, or fintech as we call it. I think one of the key things in connecting the dots are going to be payment systems integration. So this unified Caribbean economy calls for the harmonization of digital payment systems, allowing customers and consumers and businesses across the islands to conduct these transactions seamlessly. The blockchain technology, for example, can be used to facilitate secure, real-time cross-border transactions among our Caribbean countries. And this would help overcome the high costs and inefficiency in our banking desert and traditional banking, especially for small businesses and consumers. Digital banking, you mentioned briefly, and inclusion. We made strides in the financial inclusion, but there's still room to grow. Fintech can bring services like mobile banking, microloans to unbanked populations, especially in these underserved communities. Regulatory harmonization for fintech growth. I think the regulatory framework for financial technologies is one of the things that can emerge and allow the fintech startups to scale regionally. So there's a lot of these things in connecting the dots with investments and venture capital. As you mentioned, you're a banker. And I think together, when we look at connecting these dots and diversification and growth, it's going to take this supply chain integration, the logistics of the Caribbean, and also the financial infrastructure. Carolyn, you're back.
Yes, I am. And honestly, you're always such a wealth of information. And Anthony as well. Both of you, your knowledge is so deep, and the experience that you've had in these areas is really so insightful. So I appreciate that. That was a great segment. And so for now, we're going to sit tight and always looking forward to the next things with you. So viewers and listeners, that was John Clendenning, accompanied by Anthony Weeks on Connecting the Dots. So stay tuned, because we're going to be right back with In the Spotlight. Well, I'll have today's guest, Simone Arrington-Williams.
This is the Bloomberg Real Estate Report. I'm Denise Pellegrini. A lot of people apparently interested in moving to New York City, even as some look to leave the city. Zillow says many of those looking to live in New York City are from Philadelphia. It's close, easily accessible to New York City by train, and also doesn't take too long to drive or take the train back there if you want to go see a football game. Should mention, though, Zillow also says it sees a lot of people from New York City also looking in Philly. A lot of people in Washington, D.C. also searching for homes in New York, possibly looking for jobs in the private sector as the security of government jobs becomes less predictable. Meantime, believe it or not, a number of Miamians are looking to trade in their Florida sun for New York snow. And Zillow says Boston, Los Angeles, Atlanta, Chicago, Dallas, San Francisco, and Tampa are the other places where it sees a high frequency of people looking to move from to New York City. And that's the Bloomberg Real Estate Report. I'm Denise Pellegrini.
Welcome to the Connect Caribe Report. We are in the spotlight, and it is my pleasure today to bring on an international attorney that specializes in immigration law, etc. This is going to be our special guest, Simone Williams Arrington. She is the founder and managing partner of Williams Global Law, where she represents international businesses, individuals, and families in the U.S. and global immigration. EB5 investments, corporate formation, and corporate compliance. She is a highly respected immigration and business attorney with 2 decades of experience, where she specializes in advising individuals and foreign companies on investment based and employment based visa options for acquiring temporary and permanent residency in the United States and establishing operations there. Ms. Williams is recognized as one of the top U.S. immigration attorneys, receiving multiple awards and accolades for her accomplishments. She is a board member and co-chair of the International Business Committee for the Washington, D.C. Chamber of Commerce, a board member at Birchwood University, and a former commissioner on the Mayor's Advisory Commission on Caribbean Community Affairs. So she is well equipped for today's discussion. And Simone, it's a pleasure to see you.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well,
Appreciate
I love
the opportunity.
this is great. As we're talking about the diversification, Caribbean diversification opportunities and challenges, I think it's really important that we have you on because of your expertise, because we're talking very much about doing business in the Caribbean. And anybody interested in doing business with the United States Virgin Islands, the minute you touch the U.S. Virgin Islands, you have touched the United States of America. So we've got all kinds of questions for you.
Sure.
So, in starting off, is there anything you'd like to tell us first before I start asking some of my questions?
Well, I'm extremely excited to be here. I know that there are, in general, a lot of questions about immigration, and we're here to really explain and hopefully provide information to help people who are interested in doing business in the U.S., including the USVI, and just explaining the opportunities that are here for everyone, including from the Caribbean. So I'm really excited to be here today to discuss that.
I love that. And you have a special interest in this, being of Jamaican descent.
Yes, I am. In fact, I am very knowledgeable about the subject matter because I am an immigrant myself. I grew up in Toronto, Canada. My family originally from Jamaica, so very much in tune with all of immigration from a personal perspective, and understand, being an entrepreneur myself as well, having my own law firm here based in Washington, D.C. for over 10 years. So I'm really excited to be here today.
Fantastic. Well, let me get the ball rolling. I want to know, the question comes up, is the U.S. still welcoming foreign investors to do business and to set up businesses in the U.S.? That's a question you get asked all the time.
Absolutely. I know that there's a lot of things in the news with immigration, but as far as foreign investors are concerned, individuals looking to set up businesses, the U.S. is still very much open, including the current administration, towards individuals seeking to do business in the United States. So absolutely, there is a pro-investment, pro-economy focus, really trying to, create opportunities in the economy, create opportunities for small businesses and for businesses in general. So yes, that includes with immigrant investors or multinational companies looking to do businesses in the U.S.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for that. So my second question would be, what visa options are available for Caribbean individuals for starting or expanding a business in the U.S., including the U.S. Virgin Islands?
So interestingly enough, there are many opportunities. I think that in terms of individuals looking to start a business, it's good to speak to an attorney, kind of understand what they're looking to do and how. But specifically for Caribbean individuals, there's a visa called the E2 visa that's open to individuals from Jamaica and Trinidad only, unfortunately. But that allows them to come into the U.S. and invest. In terms of the type of investment, it could be anything, invest in the U.S. Outside of those countries, we have something called the L1 visa that allows individuals who have their business in the Caribbean and looking to expand their operations to the U.S. They can utilize that visa. There are several investment visas if people are at high net worth and looking for a passive investment and even a return on their investment, and that will allow them to get a U.S. permanent residency, a green card. And then there are also visas that, if you're specialized in a certain field like technology, there was some information about AI and all of these emerging markets. If you're really specialized in those areas, there are visas that will allow you to come into the United States. If you have a master's degree and specialize in certain areas that are considered high national interest of the United States. So it's something I'd have to talk to you about individually, or they could speak to an attorney, but there are a lot of opportunities and options available.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. And this is so relevant because obviously we're talking on the Connect Caribbean show. So we're dealing with lots of things in the Caribbean, but the United States of America resides there in the form of the United States Virgin Islands. So this is critically important information as we consider the USVI, St. Croix, St. Thomas, St. John as a hub for the Caribbean and doing other business. Now, a question from me would be, what would be the best fit for my business model? And I'm sure, long-term or short-term, because you mentioned people can come and they may do this or may do that. I'm assuming that would be a very personal question that you would require a deep dive individually, but what would your thought be around that?
In terms of the best fit for your business, it really depends on what you're looking to do, what type of business you're doing. But as far as just from just a high level understanding, if you have a business in the Caribbean and you're looking to expand into the U.S., including the USVI, you can do it.
Okay.
But in terms of there are certain requirements. So we always are looking. The U.S. likes to see kind of a high level of investment. So you're looking in at least $100,000 and more investment into the office. You have to hire employees. A minimum of 2 employees, including a manager and a support staff. I mean, you have to and you have to have a business plan. We help you with third-party providers that help you prepare those business plans, but it has to be a real business, and we have to help you structure it. If you have no idea about how to do this, of course, our team helps you to establish the business, register the business, get a tax ID, get a business bank account, all of these things. So we help you that when we're very experienced to help you with that.
Well, I love that. Time flies when you're having fun on this in the Spotlight segment. We're going to have to bring you back again. But let me ask you this. Can I apply for a visa even if I don't have a U.S. business partner or investor?
Absolutely. So this is the visa called the L1 visa. If you have no business, no U.S. business partner, you are coming in to actually set up a branch or a subsidiary of your foreign company, of your Caribbean company.
Okay.
So you don't need to have a U.S. business partner to do that. And we help with, we actually specialize in working with foreign entrepreneurs, people starting from the ground up. So very, always happens. And that's one of her specialties, actually.
I love that. Simone, you've got so much information for us. And as I mentioned, the time is escaping, but we've got a powerful business summit coming up. It's the SETI Case Business Summit that's coming up in April. We may have to bring you to the U.S. Virgin Islands with us as as be at our press conference in South Florida on April the 7th. So we'll be expecting that. Okay. We've got tons more questions for you, but obviously our segment is coming to a close and we're going to be coming back with our Connected Voices segment. So hopefully you can hang around. There may be more questions we need to ask you.
Okay, that sounds good. And if anyone wants to reach us, hopefully you have my contact information, williamsgloballaw.com. Our contact information is all there for any other questions. But thank you again for having me.
All right. Well, just sit tight and stay tuned. We're going to be right back.
Okay, thank you.
Reimagine a world where the Caribbean is seamlessly connected, where our people, our cultures, and our economies move freely across the islands. This is Connect Caribbean, more than a ferry service. It's the heartbeat of a new era, an era where economic opportunities expand, where trade flows freely across our seas, and cultural exchange flourishes. We are linking businesses, empowering communities, and reigniting the hope for a truly integrated Caribbean. Together, we're shaping a brighter, more unified future for the Caribbean. Connect Caribbean, connecting our islands, our people, our future.
Welcome back, everyone. What a vibrant show we've had so far. We are in Connected Voices, and there's nothing better to see the happy faces that go with the connected voices. So we brought Simone back as well. So gentlemen, Dr. Thomas, as well as John Clendenning and Anthony Weeks, feel free if you have additional questions. I was able to get our guests to stay on. And if there are any other questions you'd like to ask, since we have this subject matter expert here.
Yeah, I'd like to start off. And so my question is on, as we look at the things that we've talked about on the show, and we think of the United States Virgin Islands as the third border of the United States, and we have a separate customs jurisdiction. One of the issues that we have that presents itself is workforce development. And actually, as we rebuild the Virgin Islands from the storms we've had, we need workers, okay? And so what I'm trying to think about is, what is it that we can do to enable people in the Caribbean area to be able to come to the Virgin Islands in a unified, let's say, CARICOM type visa, where they can come into the Virgin Islands and work, do education, do conferences as we connect the Caribbean, part of the old Caribbean Basin Initiative, so that they can come here as part of the United States, but not necessarily go to the mainland United States.
Simone, that's going to be for you.
Oh, okay.
Deep question.
Oh, okay. Great, thank you. So that's a great question. I think that one way that USVI has been trying to make use of developing the area and also bringing in investors in the areas through the EB5 program. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that program, but I know that the United States Virgin Islands has an EB5 regional center. And what that does is it helps to increase the number of workers in the it's an investment-based project that's created to bring workers and jobs into the area. So the extent that we can bring more investors, American investors, to invest and develop in the USVI, that will help to create jobs in the end, and it create all different types of jobs within the economy in the USVI. I would say that would be one way. And I know that they've already been designated. There's already one regional center in the U.S. Virgin Islands.
Right. Thank you. I think that's our challenge, particularly in the supply chain fintech world. That in all of these things, one of the things that we talk about is digital literacy. Okay, and how do we thrive? And cybersecurity. So when we talk about the need for the United States to protect its borders, and we're talking about this digital literacy, all of these programs are available. As you mentioned, you have a website, people can find out this information. But what I'm concerned about is the average person in a Caribbean island that we're trying to include in the diversity of our opportunities and challenges. How do we use literacy and technology to enable these processes? And that's not necessarily for Simone, but for any of the guests. It's like, we have this challenge, but how do we reach that? We're trying to do this on this show. We're making it available. It comes on every week, but we have to figure out how we can use social media and different things to allow people to understand that these opportunities exist.
Well, I'm thinking right away, obviously, in looking at the EB5 program and the value of it. There are two things to keep in mind, John, when you think of EB5. It's all about job creation,
Yeah.
and it's a debt financing instrument to provide funding for projects, right? So the Virgin Islands has about $22 billion earmarked for rebuild, right? And the Virgin Islands have to provide their matching portion of that $22.5 billion. And so an EB5 investor can come in, whether they're a contractor or developer, and they see the opportunity to work with the U.S. Virgin Islands government using the EB5, providing in private sector investment dollars that can be used as a matching portion, with them serving as a contractor, right? For the rebuild of a hospital, rebuild of a port, rebuild of whatever. You know, it's a form. EB5 is a debt finance instrument, and it speaks to obviously the fact that we're going to need a ton loads of jobs from the Caribbean, right? To support and augment the jobs here in the Virgin Islands for $22 billion. So I would say, and Counselor, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the perfect fit in the scenario you just raised and how we bridge the gap. Counselor, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you, because it's a tool that you could leverage in terms of bringing private sector funds into the USVI, as well as, you said, matching with the government funds, and then bringing these real estate development projects creates, and whether it's real estate or even manufacturing, creates a lot of jobs, and for individuals in general. I mean, you know, if you're looking at particular types of industries that EB5 is normally geared towards, it is real estate, but there are successful manufacturing type projects as well. So the extent that I think that you could bring in these types of developers into the region, and also allow investors, and investors are bringing a lot of money. That's an $800,000 investment that has to be made per investor. So, there's a lot of money to be invested into the economy, which I think you can give back and also help to create, expand the workforce and create the jobs for the economy to thrive.
And the reason that's valuable, because in addition to the matching fund portion, a lot of U.S. states and municipalities, when they get these federal dollars, they have to first put out those funds. They have to lay them out first and then get reimbursed by the government. And so when you say $22 billion, that's a lot of money, right? For any local municipality. Where's that $22 billion going to come from? They're going to have to go to the capital market to fund these, capital projects that are government sponsored, where they're able to invite bidders through an RFP, RFQ, or competitive situation. And some of these foreign companies from the Caribbean bringing in, obviously, their company and their resources to help rebuild the Virgin Islands. The EB5 program can be position aligned with that.
Yeah, because I understand that the regional center program was was terminated. That they used to have a regional center and they no longer have one. But to the extent that they could bring it back, because even in the tourism and hospitality industry, foreign investors tend to like investments that are in hotels, entertainment facilities, and resorts, right? So to bring that back and to enhance USVI as a world-class destination, I think that would be also another benefit.
Yeah, and it'll work. I think it's a unique opportunity, because as we work with our partners on CARICOM, particularly with Ambassador and company, as we build this new capital market ecosystem, we're able to position EB5 funding as part of that offering for potential raising of capital, leveraging the EB5 as a mechanism to be able to attract foreign direct investment, if you will.
Exactly. And another type of project that tends to be very popular for EB5 is affordable housing projects. So, I mean, it encourages urban growth and revitalization and all of that. So to kind of gear towards those types of projects and to match it with the government funding would be, the way to go.
Let me follow up on because we're talking about the investment and the banking part. I want to talk about the person on the street, the man or woman that's in a Caribbean country that wants to take advantage of the fact that with what Anthony was talking about with the $22 billion of investment, we're short some 5,000 workers. So when we look at how do we get the workers in, can you comment a little bit on how does a person or how does the territory, how can we source workers throughout the Caribbean to work on FEMA and other kinds of projects and have a visa in order to come here, but not necessarily go to the mainland United States?
And what type of positions and
yeah, we're going to need primarily plumbers, electricians, carpenters, people, cement people that are actually going to build the infrastructure. We have 2 hospitals that we're going to have built, 16 schools. We have infrastructure roads that are going to be done, and we just need the manpower. So that's what I'm saying. It's not the person with the master's degree that qualifies for some of the specialized visas to come into the United States. We're talking about people that have come largely like when we had the refinery built some years ago. We had many people come from, as we call it, Down Island to provide that workforce for Martin Marietta and the aluminum, Harvey Aluminum, and the refinery.
Well, so the U.S. has seasonal they're called H-2B visas or H-2A visas. They're either for non-agricultural workers, seasonal, or agricultural workers. So the extent that there are these projects that are in demand and there's a lack of workers in the USVI, you could actually use those types of visas to bring in on a seasonal basis as needed. So that's the visa cap there's a visa cap per year, unfortunately, but hotel workers, landscapers, amusement staff, construction workers, plumber, those types of workers are would be considered eligible for the H-2B visa. That's seasonal non-agricultural workers.
Thank you, Simone. Let me ask you this. Can I bring my family with me under my business visa? Is that a possibility? Because thinking in terms of not necessarily breaking up families, but
yeah. That's absolutely the right now. The rule is for immigration is that it always covers the principal applicant and their family, their spouse, and their children under the age of 21. Oh. So, if the principal applicant is approved, then everybody else is approved. But the children have to be under the age of 21.
Okay. All right. So that's an option there. Dr. Thomas, you were listening carefully, or did you have something you were about to add? It looked like you were about to speak.
Yes, absolutely. Now, what I wanted to find out, what's the turnaround time from the time you apply and the process time for if everything is in order, what's the approximate time?
So honestly, it really depends. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to give the attorney answer. It really depends on the type of visa. Some visas are eligible for an expedite processing, where you can get a decision within 15 business days. That's if the visa is eligible for expedite processing for a fee. And it really depends, again, on the type of visa that you will be applying for. So every visa category has their own processing times, but there is an expedite fee for certain visas, like the L1 visa that I mentioned, the E2 visa, and some of the other visas that I mentioned today.
And Simone, just to get a sense of the type of investment a person would have to make financially in order to get a visa, are we, I've heard horror stories from around the world, but what's the price point to get a visa, to engage a law firm and get a visa?
It depends.
Okay. It depends.
Give you quotes for fees. That you have to connect with me.
Okay, to have that.
Yeah.
But in terms of the actual U.S. processing, what are the
the processing in terms of filing fees? The filing fees it ranges. It depends on the type of visa. So if you're looking for an L1 visa, The filing fees are approximately $1,015.
Okay.
If you pay for an expedite, you have to. The filing fee is $2,805.
Okay.
That's just for the expedite fee. If you're doing something called an EB-5 visa, as we were talking about, the filing fee alone is $12,160.
Okay. So this is
So if you're interested, but the investment amount is 800,000, as I mentioned. So it's a high net worth investment visa, and the filing fees are commensurate with I guess the nature of the visa. So
well, I really appreciate, and I appreciate your expertise. I know we're going to be talking to you. I hope we see you at the summit.
Yeah.
So looking at our connected voices here, and as we're all getting together, we've got the 2-minute warning. So in the last 90 seconds I'd love to hear from you, Dr. Thomas, from you, Anthony, and from you, John, and then close out.
Okay, well, this has been a really exciting program because it's really clear to me that there are significant opportunities in utilizing the U.S. system to bring in new businesses to the USVI, and we'll be doing that. So I can tell you that Simone will be hearing from Pliam.
Wonderful. And I will make that connection. But it's your website, though, Simone, I do want to say that again, is Williams.
My website is williamsgloballaw.com. So that's Williams with 2 L's, WILLIAMS, globallaw.com.
Perfect. Now you, John, let's hear from you as you're closing out. You're still muted right now. I apologize for
As
that.
we, in general, as we transition to the single economy, I think the thing that I learned from this show is workforce development. And I think that when we look at it, we have the ability to get the funding in through some of these visa programs that we've talked about, but it's also the actual people and our fluidity in going from island nation to island nation. So we're talking about, we have a ferry service, we have a way to get goods and materials, and the workforce development is we need a way without these $12,000 visas for people to actually apply and or for us to go out to the Caribbean nations and say, we need to be able to bring in our people from the Caribbean rather than relying on going to Mississippi or Louisiana or Alabama or the DMV area to bring people in here to do this substantial development that Anthony talked about.
Wonderful. Point well taken. Anthony, any parting words for us?
Mute.
And you're muted as well. I apologize. I appreciate you all muting yourselves when you're not speaking.
No. Like I said, what was refreshing and very encouraging. I'm really excited to hear the depth and knowledge of the counselor in terms of opportunities, right? What we see on television is one thing, the reality is another thing. And so clearly the region are still open for doing business, whether you're investing or want to do business. That doesn't stop anything. It's people need to understand that and put that in its proper context, if you will. But what I got to reinforce each and every time we do this program, the new paradigm, the new economic paradigm that we are creating doesn't exist. And so when we talk about the bringing together of the CARICOM region and its private sector members and the U.S. Virgin Islands serving as a catalyst to the U.S. market and vice versa is what we're talking about. And the Virgin Islands, for the first time ever in the history, there is a defined role that speaks to the uniqueness the U.S. Virgin Islands can play. That's very, very important because it's never been done before. And we are the architect putting together that plan, piecing together to create this new transformation of how the region is positioned to do business.
Well, thank you so much, Anthony. Thank you, Simone, our guest. We'll see you again. Thank you, Dr. Thomas. Thank you, John Clendenning. Next time, we're going to be talking about the role of small and medium-sized businesses as in the Caribbean, making the economy far more robust. We have had a lot to talk today. We're going to have to jump out quickly, but we look forward to seeing you on the next Connect Caribe report. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome to our TV network, your ultimate destination for all things exciting and essential. From mouth-watering food to the latest in fashion, health, education, music, movies, and news, plus thrilling sports and breathtaking travel, our TV network brings it all to you. Tune in today and experience the best of every world, all in one place, rtv.network.